Hi there, thanks for joining me. Welcome to my presentation on building community in an online classroom and answering the question, what does community mean to me? This project was created for my class EDUC 4151 through Vancouver Community College. As I consciously reflect on what community means to me, I actually get a feeling. I feel things like safety. I feel free and hugged and supported and vulnerable. And I would hope and suggest that all members of the community could eventually feel the same way. At the same time, I recognize there are specific roles of members of a community, and finally, a community does need multiple members. As an individual, I feel I'm a naturally inclusive person. Since I was a small child, I made sure no one was playing alone. Now, as a facilitator, I welcome the learners to the classroom. I am open and authentic, and I encourage the students to be the same. Together, we will build a learning community based on trust, mutual respect and interests, and humanism. Learning styles and prior experience may influence the learner's perception of what, in quotes, a classroom should look like. Some learners expect to be trained. They want to hear from the expert. They don't want to work with others or learn through self-discovery. In this case, the facilitator would take the opportunity to model curiosity and interest, demonstrate the benefits of being part of a community. The online learning community can be a wonderful vessel for providing various types of activities appealing to different learning styles. Encouraging the giving and receiving of information, sharing different resources, and facilitating healthy discourse may all inspire high-functioning classrooms. For some, facilitators, either face-to-face or online, may find their own disposition and personality hinders them from teaching excellence. From early engagement, teacher presence, social presence, and cognitive presence are all necessities for building an online learning community. For some facilitators resistant to teaching online, they may find professional development using principles rooted in communities of practice and communities of inquiry could assist them in shifting to being more engaged facilitators. So what are the best practices for online facilitation in building communities? There's teacher presence, there's learner presence, social presence, and as an effective facilitator prior to the course beginnings, you will invest a great deal of energy into the intentional development of building community through these initiatives. Be human, make it personal, be real, tell and ask for some personal thoughts and activities or hobbies. Don't be your learning management system. Give your learning management system a personality. This is not a do as I say. This is a do as I do. Be the community member you hope your learners will be and model the behaviors you want to see. Make your classroom agreements together. State your expectations and then ask the learners what their expectations are. Make a deal. Go as far as discussing how you'll handle discourse or conflict. Go through your syllabus. Ensure that there's sufficient time for all activities and formal and informal assessments to be completed. Review the timelines with the learners. While it's the student's responsibility for time management, being a guide to help them will help you build a community. One great way to build community is to build relationships among the members. Relying on others, collaborative activities, sharing resources can all help the learners learn from each other. A cafe, a wiki, a water cooler space, somewhere fresh for students to speak to each other about all things non-course material. And while it's a space for the learners, we've already established we're in this together, so join in. Say what you're going to do what you said you would do. Simply, if you say you're going to get back to the students within a week, then make sure you do. If you say you're going to respond to something within 24 hours, make sure you do. And consistently do it throughout the course to the last day. It helps if you are a respectful and trusting person to be able to build this type of rapport with your community. Your inner spirit will show through. Be authentic. Check in with your students throughout the course. Monkey survey, learning management systems, polls, custom classroom assessment techniques are all terrific methods for getting student feedback throughout the course. This is also a method of building rapport in that the learners will feel invited to respond and have respect for you. So there's volumes more on best practices for facilitators. Hopefully these top 10 will encourage you to dig deeper into these themes. How can you help the learners in the online classroom? We can be the world's best facilitator, could have prepared to no end, but if we have novice or shy learners, or ones who may have experienced strong instructor-driven content courses, we must also help those learners on how to be the best learner in a student-driven environment. These are the top 10 tips suggested by online learners. After looking through numerous online tips, the number one tip from online learners was to communicate with the faculty, each other, prior learners, just about anybody you can get your ears on. Discussion boards, chat rooms, email and synchronous meeting rooms are all great ways to discuss questions, interests, and more importantly, knowledge. Dedicate not only study hours, but work hours and play hours are important too. As well, pick a place, maybe two, physically to study in. One of the benefits of e-learning is access anywhere, anytime, but everyone is different. Some students will read their text at home, but do the online work in a library. Commitment is different than physically showing up for a class in a specific time. Create your timetable and stick to it. Create appropriate and achievable goals. Write them down. Share them with your learning community. Share them with your mentor, your family, your friends. Get people cheering for you. Look at those goals. How will you achieve them? Create a strategy. Every little milestone, check it off. Give yourself a pat on the back. Doing things because you are a responsible individual, motivated for your own personal success. Check in daily. Check your school email. I know it's not part of your routine, but it's part of your job right now. Check into your course. Anything new on the discussion board? Anyone asking for help? And you ask questions as well. Read it all the way through, twice at the beginning of the course. I needed a printed copy, but that's just me. Highlight due dates and submission dates. Check for course policy on attendance, late submissions, that sort of thing. Life happens to all of us, all the time. Yes, we must have a plan, but there needs to be flexibility within. Crisis mode is not a good place. When stuff happens, communicate with your instructor, your peers, and create a temporary plan. It is important to be clear on how your course affects your career or goal strategies. If you're not sure about this, ask your instructor for clarification. Right from the e-learning management systems, but also knowing how to save and submit files in a specific way is very important. Also, any discipline-specific software should be noted at the beginning of the course. And finally, avoid that procrastination. It's so easy to say, oh, tomorrow I'll get it done. Often people really believe they do their best work in the time of crunch. This is just not true. It takes many hours of editing, reading, testing, measuring, building, proofing to make the best that you can. You've come a long way. Be the best you can be and do the best that you can. Again, there are many more suggestions from the online learners. These were the top 10. One of the most brilliant results of an e-learning environment is the opportunity for learners from all walks of life, from varying races and ethnic origins, differing political and religious movements, to contrasting cultural norms. As a facilitator, I invite you to embrace and even get excited about the opportunity to use these differences as springboards for learning. John Dewey said, if we teach today's students as we taught yesterday's, we rob them of tomorrow. If you've done the proper due diligence from the beginning of your course, and the students, you've already established your guidelines for communication, dealing with netiquette, appropriateness, and how to address controversial or negative engagement. Remember as well, you must be self-aware of any biases or perceptions that you may have which can influence the class. Much depends on the context of the issue. It is important as the facilitator you model the process by which you all agreed. It could be something as minor as a misunderstanding just due to a language issue. Or there could be a lack of collaboration due to different cultural expectations. Or in extreme cases, some form of ism, demonstrating disregard or contempt toward another individual. When facing any type of conflict, it is important to follow 3 main steps to a negotiated agreement. It's important to identify the real issue, not the position where people stand, but the interest. Why do they have that position? And dig down deep, but identify the real issue. Next, generate as many possible options for resolve as you can. Nothing is a bad idea at this stage. Any kind of solution is better. Finally, eliminate those that won't work and agree on a final resolution process. Create an action plan, follow up with the students, follow up with whoever's involved, create a timeline for when you're going to check back. If the facilitator has created an environment of trust, communication, and approachability, this will be an easy task. If in fact the negotiation cannot be agreed on by both parties, the issue would be escalated to a level of authority that would decide the final outcome of the situation. In conclusion, there are multiple components with teaching and learning online: curriculum development, instructional design, activity and assessment validation. All are imperative to the quality of the content. By facilitators guiding the teaching and learning process, by building open and safe communities of inquiry and practice for all members of the community, engagement is the key to self-directed and self-motivated learning. By providing meaningful activities, clear, concise grading rubrics, and constructive feedback, individuals will become independent knowledge builders. Thank you.